right, ready when you are.
Alrighty. So, yeah, the first question, what do you think is the single most pressing issue to address in Morganton and why?
Issue, I guess I would maybe call it opportunity and issues around that opportunity. And I think that we really need to continue to address the issues of the School for Science and Math, and not just the school coming in, but what will eventually come in as a result of that. Meaning, I foresee in 5-10 years after the school is here that we're going to be getting innovative businesses, innovative manufacturing that really follows this kind of school, this kind of brain power that happens. So we need to be prepared for that. Housing, of course, is a huge issue with the influx of the School for Science and Math, as well as the addition to Continental Tevis right now. As a realtor, we're finding a shortage of houses. I just came from the realtors meeting, and the Housing Summit folks, the leadership team, are applying for grants so we can get a concrete study of what we really need and what we need to move forward in order to make sure that we have enough housing, both affordable housing as well as housing for people who are coming in.
Okay. Yeah, the next question is two parts, but can you tell me the budget for this fiscal year?
Oh man, my retrieval process is really slow. But no, I would have had to write that down.
Well, just thinking about it, if you've looked at it, can you think of any department that you feel is overfunded or underfunded? You
know, I was part of the budgetary process since I was on the appointment issue. I've been going to several of the city's meetings and was part of both the capital expenditure budget as well as the budgetary meetings leading up to the final budget. And as always, there's departments that ask for money that they do not get. I think that oftentimes people look at departments that provide services versus providing an actual product as maybe being overfunded and things like that. I was very pleased with the decisions that the current council made on the budget. I felt like a couple things might have been left out of the budget, but they were very forward-thinking in what they were doing and funded both the recreation master plan and the downtown master plan, which were expensive and not part of a normal budget. And by doing both in the same year, that was expensive. They also funded a salary plan. We were compared to cities similar to us, and to see where our salaries ranged and which departments needed a higher level of salaries to not only recruit but to maintain. And the second part of the budget that surprised me the most was public safety. The requirements that federally are mandated to them regarding equipment, etc., that sometimes there's equipment that's never been used but has to be replaced because of an expiration date or whatever. It's a very expensive process. So I really can't say that one department was overfunded. I think that all the departments were very frugal in what they asked for, and I think that the council, in approving the 2 master plans in 1 year, were very forward-thinking.
Okay. How do you feel about the working relationship between the county and the city?
I think they have done some good collaborative efforts, but however, it's sort of a pull and take. Our city is very successful. It seems to be very financially solvent. It's somewhat of a visionary risk taker. I see that the county is more of a frugal organization. I don't think that they are more risk takers or visionaries as the city of Morganton is. And in those respects, they sometimes get in conflict with who's going to pay what and who's making decisions on what. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, I believe that both boards, all the staff members, are out there to do what's best for the community. And although they might have some very interesting discussions, that ultimately they do what's best for the community.
All righty. can you name an item that the council approved this year that you would have voted against, and why?
You know, they didn't vote it on this year. The one item that they voted on last year was public comments, which they took out of the public viewing, the video of the different council meetings. They voted to allow for public comments, but that it would not be part of the video, that the live feed that people see on Channel 2. I think that, as it was with the school board several years ago, it can get very, very controversial. It can get heated. It has been heated even in the city of Morganton, but I think it's very important that people get an opportunity for their voice to be heard. The council may not agree with it or whatever they're saying, but they have an opportunity as citizens to say what they need to say.
Okay. How do you feel about the city management team, which would include department heads as well?
I have a great working relationship, both when I was a property owner and business person in downtown and when I worked for the city. The departments work very well together. We have a lot of new department heads and a lot of new staff people, and they seem to have just blended in very well with the old school. We had folks that were department heads that had been there for 25, 30 years. When you bring somebody new in, oftentimes it takes a while for them to integrate and be able to work collectively. However, the choices that have been made with the department heads and some of the staff members, they seem to be working very well together. They're excited about what's going on. They're willing to do their part to make things happen. You always have to look. I mean, we're not all perfect, so you always have to look at what's going on. Public safety at this point is, in my opinion, has the biggest challenge right now. As it is in the nation, there's not a lot of people who are going into law enforcement due to just how hard it is now. And so being able to train them, which takes almost a year, and then get them in the force, we have open positions. So I think that department, if any, is probably under the hardest, not scrutiny, but has a lot of work to do this year in order to get their rolls up and get people on the street patrolling and doing what they need to do. Our officers are overworked. They're glad to do the work, but they need more support in terms of more officers.
Okay. As you know, there's been an open seat on the council.
Yes.
How do you feel about having an open seat on the council, and if you were elected, would you do anything to keep that from happening again?
You know, we talked about this when all this happened. According to our bylaws or the format that we go to, there was no intercession that could happen there, and so no outside. We couldn't have a special election or anything to get that filled. I don't think any district in this city should not be represented, and I think it's also difficult not to have at least that odd number in place to do that. This made the mayor have to act as a council person as well as a mayor, because most of the time, if there's a tied vote, then the mayor would be the person to break that tie. It was a matter of two people wanted one person, two people wanted another person, and we did not have a system in place to be able to break that tie.
And out of all the ideas that have been proposed in the most recent downtown master plan, what do you feel is the most important proposal to be funded?
I believe housing is the most important, not as a realtor, but just the fact that there's such a need. We pushed second floor housing probably about 10 years ago, and we got pretty good response in terms of people who wanted to invest in second floor housing. My understanding from all the reports I'm getting, just in the immediate downtown area, there's 1,800 people waiting on a waiting list. or 1,800 people who have expressed an interest to be in the downtown district, walking distance to what's going on downtown. A lot of that comes from retired people who don't want the upkeep, and then a lot of millennials are very interested in coming into the downtown area. So for me, housing is the #1 priority for that. With that will evolve more restaurants, more retail. So you have to focus on one thing before the other things begin to follow suit.
All right. And can you tell me how many council meetings you have attended in the past year?
I think all but 2.
All right. And then Morganton has a variety of opportunities for recreation, entertainment, and leisure. Imagine it's a Saturday morning in Morganton and your day's wide open. Starting with waking up until the end of the day, how would you spend an ideal day in Morganton?
Well, I live in downtown Morganton, or in Morganton. The Greenway is probably a family thing that my family participates in. The parks, I live close to Martha's Park, so when grandchildren come over, we just walk down to Martha's Park. In the evenings, I like to go out and eat dinner at one of the restaurants downtown. I'm not much of an interstate eatery kind of person, so if I do go out to eat, most of the time it is in the downtown area, and I guess that would be more of what I would be doing.
Okay. And can you tell me something you've done in your life that you are particularly proud of?
Outside of my family. Let me think about that just a minute. I think what I'm currently doing, I'm the most proud of. For 7 years, I was the executive director of the nonprofit group United Way. And after I retired from there, I chose to put my energy in Burke Recovery. I had been serving on the prescription drug task force prior to that. I was not on the board, I was just serving on that task force. And this opioid epidemic that is all over the country is very, very prevalent in this community. Children are being born addicted to opioids. The social services of this community are overworked. They don't have the money to be able to serve the population that is now addicted to opioids. Learning that the fact that these synthetic opioids actually change the physiological bodies of the people that are taking them has taken my perception of an addict to a different direction, and addressing it in a physiological way, and trying to figure out what those baby steps are to try to curb this epidemic, because it's affecting families, it's affecting communities, and it's affecting budgets, type of thing. It's affecting our workforce. It is surprising if you talk to human relations directors how many people that apply for work cannot work there because they don't pass. So I'm very proud that I have chosen to spend my time not only serving as a board member and making decisions, but also learning and trying to pass the word on about this epidemic, because as I probably was in the beginning, I thought they're just making really bad choices and it's affecting too many people. They made a bad choice in the beginning, but part of it is that they have no control because it's a physiological change. So we need more funding for mental health and for opioid addiction treatment.
All right, and then final question. Have you discussed these questions with candidates who have already interviewed or anyone else who might have knowledge of them? All right. Well, then that is it.
Okay.
Cool.